Hello, dear ones. I hope you have had a good new moon, which would have been Sunday. So this week starts us still in that new moon portal, and it was a stubborn new moon, as I did put in my previous posts. So how are you feeling? And it wasn't just about this Taurus new moon and that fixed energy that we're dealing with now in Taurus season. It was also very much about the third of three Mars Pluto square oppositions. And this is an energy that I've been speaking about for some months. The first exact opposition was in November, early November, the 3rd. The second one, the retrograde opposition, was January 3rd. And then now, last weekend, with this full moon, new moon, we experienced the 3rd. So that one would have been in theme with the 3rd of November and the 3rd of January, and now 27, 28 of April. So if you're a journaler, or if you're somebody who has been going through a lot right now, look back in your email list, in your chat histories for those 2 dates and see what themes are at play. And that'll give you a good indication of what it is that you're trying to work out. And remember that this is not a personalized reading, so you're going to pick a card between 1 and 4, and it's going to give you a slightly more personalized slant on the week. It's a collective reading, so anybody who finds themselves at this reading, even if it's out of timing, with the dates above this reading, you found it for a reason at the time that you found it. Okay, so let's jump in. Pick a number. Right, only one upside down card this week, which is nice, and 2 major arcana cards, remembering that major arcana are the cards that are like our big archetypal life lessons. Sorry, I have a bit of a frog today in my throat. So the moon card is, I love the moon card and hate the moon card. It's a bit like my relationship with the full moon itself. It's like a love-hate relationship, and you can see the full moon in this card, because it is so polarizing. So because we've just had a new moon, in some ways, depending on what you're feeling, what you're going through and experiencing, especially if you picked card number 1, you might be actually giving yourself a timeline. It might be saying to you, this is going to resolve by the next full moon. Or it might be saying, look back to the last full moon and you'll have more of an understanding of what you're working through. So bear that in mind. You can use certain cards like a moon card where it shows you a big full moon like this. You can use that as, on some levels, a timing technique. Okay, but the moon card is very much about tapping into the unconscious, the unseen, the nocturnal, the internal. So you can see that there are, it's actually traditionally, it's a wolf and a dog. So it's about talking into the domesticated part of yourself, the domestic dog, versus the wild part of yourself, the wolf. And either way, they're both connected to the moon, although we have this deep understanding of how wolves are connected to the moon, but the canine family in general. And so there's that friendly part, the domesticated part of you saying, you know, am I still having my feelings? Am I longing to be more connected to my wild self? And there's that wild part of you saying, you know, am I longing to be tamed on some level? So I would, especially with that opposition, I'm feeling that oppositional Mars Pluto oppositional energy really, really strongly here. You know, asking yourself, what is it that, where is that opposing energy? And can I find a middle ground? And bringing up unconscious feelings, because the moon is very linked to emotional selves, to our intuitive self, to our unconscious self. And so what emotions are coming up? What is bubbling up? And there's almost no way to get around, feelings anytime. But with a Mars-Pluto opposition coming out of this Taurus new moon, we are definitely feeling things bubbling up. Are they very old things? Are they coming up to be healed? Are you ready to look at them, feel them, heal them? Or aren't you? And if not, why? So I would definitely recommend some journaling, whether that is unconscious journaling processing, whether that is referencing back to your old journal stuff. Find the method that works for you. There are so many different methods of journaling. Okay, then the Magician. I mean, this is an early card. This is number 1. This is an early card in the major arcana. It's the second card, because 0 card is the Fool, and then the Magician. So the first card in the major arcana is talking about your skill set, all the latent tools that are buried within you that you have access to should you choose to. And I think that's the question here, like letting things bubble up, coming to be more honest and open with yourself, bringing the things that have been hidden more into the conscious, and then using that as part of your skill set and tools. And how do you become the next best version of you? Because we're constantly in this process of evolution. So how do you grow into that right now when there's a lot of things coming up, and really the whole of humanity is in this alchemizing existence right now. We're all becoming this new human. We're all developing this new earth, and we're doing that together. It's not a one and done. There's no one person that can do it on their own, and it's not, one day we'll all wake up and everything will be done. It's a process of evolution and constantly fine-tuning our skills, constantly digging deep into what's there within us anyway. And for many of us, it's the same stuff. Like, we're all more intuitive than we know. But some of us have an easier and quicker access to that intuition, maybe because we're naturally that way, maybe because we've practiced at it. I mean, for me, both of those things are true. I've been working on my intuition and studying and having that courage to dive deep, do the shadow work for years and years and years and years, and that's enhanced my intuition. But yes, I am very naturally intuitive and psychic. However, we all have got that. And if we put time and energy and invest in it, then it will get greater. And that is with any skill set. That's just obviously one thing that I've pulled up with the intuition processing here of the moon. Okay, then we've got 1 swords and 1 cups. And swords is an air card, which is our intellect. I don't know why I've got a little croak. Mercury's also just moved out of his shadow now, so we're done with that Mercury retrograde process for the most part, excepting that Venus is still traveling that same space. And at the end of this week, Mars will finally, since October, will finally be done his process. So that's also something that's very present this week. Okay, so the upside down, let me turn this, the upside down page of swords is, this probably is our biggest challenge of the week, I would say. It's like, where are you being deceitful, untruthful, half-truths? Where are you gossiping? Where are you being a little bit frayed and frazzled? Because it's air, and you can see, like, in its upright form, she's able to have all these ideas. Look at the light bulb balloons. All these birds singing in her mind, like ideas swirling around her head, reading at the same time. So she's like learning, she's thinking, she's processing, she's full of ideas. She's literally walking across this tiny little beam between these two. She could fall in easily, but this is such a Gemini card, honestly. She can do a million different things at once. Whether she's doing them well or not is another question, but it's a bit ADHD, really. So upside down, we really want to take a little bit of a deeper look. So I'm just going to pause and clear my throat one moment. Sorry, just struggling with this little tickle. Okay, so with her now, we want to look at our nervous systems for sure, because she might be doing a little too much, burning the candle at both ends, so to speak. She's definitely got too much going on in her head at one time that she's struggling to bring it to ground. I mean, she's literally even walking in the air on a tiniest little beam that there is. Watching for things like arrogance would be a good idea at this time. And as I say, down-regulate that nervous system, because we got this upside down, of course. But then we have this beautiful, lucky 9 of cups at the end of this reading, which is an amazing card. You can see all the energy bursting out of her heart. And she's deep under the water. She's found this beautiful treasure chest, and she is now sort of open-heartedly floating. And I mean, this could be a she or it could be a he. I quite like this with a lot of these cards. They're open to interpretation, a lot of them where they would traditionally be a male. For example, the page is represented as a female, and then a lot of them are kind of could be either. You can see even this, I would say guy, but you can't really tell for sure. So I quite like that in this deck, because you can really feel into it for whatever you feel yourself as. Sorry, I'm digressing, but you can see that this is water. You can see kind of the surface of the water. You can see this golden glow and golden tarot. are usually the cards that represent good fortune and good luck. And this is very much a lucky card, and dreams come true, wishes made manifest, so this is a very, very positive way to end. So I think that the question is to look at how you are thinking about things, remembering that Mercury has just finished a process and sort of changing the way we think, changing the way we respond and react to things where they haven't been working. Because if you're doing the work during these retrograde processes, obviously consciously it's easier. Well, it's harder and it's easier. It's harder when you have to look at things with full authenticity and honesty with yourself. But it's easier to see the progress you've made when you know that you were working on something. But even if you didn't know it, you probably were on some level. But what I wanted to say is, if you're doing the work during these retrogrades, each time you come out of a Mercury retrograde, for example, you should have a clearer understanding and idea and thought process around what hasn't been working for you, around the way you've been speaking, the way you've been thinking, that type of thing, mercurial things. And so this being upside down is saying, oh, maybe there were a few stumbling blocks that you hit there that you didn't love. And so you're sort of getting stuck back into that pattern because it's the known pattern. And I mean, if Mercury is our thinking and our brain, we must remember that our brains are very much more comfortable in what they know. And that doesn't have to be healthy, but it's known. And on some level, our brains feel like the known is the safer option than the unknown. I mean, you could be in an extremely dangerous environment, but you know that environment. So therefore, you feel safer in it than leaving the cage, so to speak. If you were a tiger in a cage, you've never been free, and you're unhappy and miserable, and you can't roam the way that you organically want to roam, but then somebody opens the cage, and that's scarier. That's scarier than staying unhappy in the cage, because at least you know the cage. At least you know that somebody will feed you. You don't know what's outside. You don't know. And that is terrifying for our brains and then our nervous systems. So that's, I think, where you need to look out this week, especially if you chose card number 3, is where am I reverting back to my default settings because they are known? And can I change my perspective, my thinking, again, that Mercury word, around unknown? Can I get excited about it? Can I say, well, this is terrifying, but I was going to phone so-and-so and give them a piece of my mind. What if I didn't? Or I wasn't going to phone so-and-so. I was going to stay silent as I always do. What if I didn't? So whatever it is, it's a changing of the way you do things, but get excited about it like it's an experiment. It's an adventure, because this is very mercurial and this is very Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So there is a lot speaking into that part of us, that mercurial part of us, that we could make it an adventure. We could make it a puzzle, a riddle to be solved if we give it that perspective. And then, of course, always bring in that intuition, because the moon card is water and is very watery. I mean, the moon rules the tides and the element of water. And then we've got the lucky 9 of cups. So it's almost like we've got this very mercurial, airy energy in the middle of the reading. And then on the 2 outsides, we've got the much more watery, intuitive. So again, it's also about finding that balance between I think and I feel. I feel and I think. I think what I feel is wrong. I think what I feel is valid. I feel what I think is too much. I feel, start asking yourself these questions. What is it that I think? What is it that I feel? And where does that intersect? Okay, I'm going to stop here, but thank you very much for watching, for your likes, shares, follows, subscribes, and I will be back again next week.